Baseball, America's pastime, a sport enjoyed by citizens of every race, origin, and creed. But it wasn't always that way.
It's 1864, and the National Association of Baseball Players, one of the first large baseball clubs, creates a new rule prohibiting any team with colored players from playing in the league. After the Civil War, the leagues were reformed, and the rule was removed. This was not the end of segregation in baseball. The white team owners created a gentleman's agreement to keep colored people out of baseball. The gentleman's agreement didn't allow African Americans into the Major League Baseball for the next 55 years. Soon after this agreement was established, no African American players were drafted.
With this, after World War I, on February 19, 1920, the Negro National League was founded in Kansas City, Missouri by Rube Foster, breaking barriers forever.
Most of the teams at this time played baseball like any other team would. The original 8 Negro League teams were the Chicago American Giants, Chicago Giants, Cuban Stars, Dayton Marcos, Detroit Stars, Indianapolis ABCs, Kansas City Monarchs, and the St. Louis Giants. There were previous attempts at an organized color league, but they failed to establish a concrete league because of the disorganization and white booking agents controlling how much the teams were paid. The Negro Leagues broke barriers by being the first to give African Americans a professional platform to play baseball, and eventually break the color barrier.
But there was one team that stood out in this league, the Indianapolis Clowns. The Clowns first started as the independent Miami Giants, who then moved to Cincinnati and eventually settled in the Circle City. The Indianapolis Clowns became affiliated with the Negro American League in 1943. The Clowns were a special, groundbreaking team. They were comparable to the Harlem Globetrotters in the way they could combine entertainment and sports. Their creativity is one of the chief reasons the Clowns have such a lasting impact today.
While the Clowns joined the Negro Leagues, World War II raged on. Many African American men were drafted by the U.S. to fight the Axis powers, including some Negro League players. Once the war ended and the African American troops got back home, they started battle for their rights. Veterans had fought for their country and they didn't have equal rights in. Then, on April 15, 1947, former Negro League and Kansas City Monarchs player Jackie Robinson played his first game with the Brooklyn Dodgers. The color line was broken. The Negro League had propelled an African American into the MLB, breaking barriers forever. More and more Negro League players start to trickle into the MLB. A trickle then turns to a flood. In 1952, there were 150 African Americans in Major League Baseball. By the 1950s, the Negro League started to falter. The Negro National League folded in 1950, leaving only the Negro American League.
And when they started to associate with us and they found out that all of the things people said, that you use the same locker rooms, the same showers, the same facilities, something's going to happen, they lost that fear after a short time, and they became, I guess, as aggressive in terms of the success as anybody. Of course, I feel a little good, too, about it, Dick, because all that time was happening. Nothing was happening to me either, you know. So while they had their fears that things were going to happen to me, to them, I felt good because nothing was happening to me as well. So it made it kind of an even kind of a situation. But the whole situation in breaking the barrier was done simply because we had a purpose in mind to go out and win.
But the introduction of African Americans into Major League Baseball didn't mean the Indianapolis Clowns couldn't continue to break barriers. Hank Aaron, legendary record-breaking African American baseball player, was with the Clowns for a time. The Clowns aided him in breaking barriers by giving him the chance to eventually become one of the best baseball players in the MLB and break the all-time career home run record. the Clowns also broke barriers in another important way. They hired the first women to play on a professional men's team. The 3 barrier-breaking women in the Clowns hired were Mammy Peanut Johnson, Toni Stone, and Connie Morgan. From a surface level, it seemed that the females were only there to attract more people to the games, but they were much more than that.
Toni Stone was hired to replace Hank Karen at second base after he left for the MLB. Mamie Johnson was then hired by the Clowns to be a pitcher. Once Toni Stone left the Clowns to play for the Kansas City Monarchs, Connie Morgan was hired to replace her. All of these women had a passion for baseball and could play it as well, or even better, than their male counterparts. Mamie Peanut Johnson, the only woman to pitch, had an incredible pitching record of 11-3, 10-1, and 12-4 in 3 seasons. Despite her ability in baseball, the woman would still sometimes get harassed and segregated against.
Whether it was shouts from the crowd, jokes from teammates, or being denied for their gender and race, the 3 girls were beaten down by society every step of the way. Mamie Johnson was always raised in African American communities and never understood segregation. But when she tried out for the All-American Female Baseball League, she was turned down. Once the women were on the team, they would be told to go home and that they weren't meant for baseball. Toni Stone recalls being told by teammates to, quote, go home and fix your husband some biscuits, end quote. Mamie Peanut Johnson even got her colorful nickname from this harassment, when Kansas City Monarchs player Hank Bayless was up to bat while Mamie was pitching. He shouted that Mamie was, quote, no bigger than a peanut, end quote. Mamie then proceeded to strike him out.
In an audio interview with NPR, Mamie Peanut Johnson explained how male teammates treated her and her fellow female baseball players.
Were your teammates on the Indianapolis Clowns, guys, altogether happy that you were their teammate?
Most of them were. And then again, they're just a bunch of guys that some are pleased that women were able to do what they could do. Then you had your dummy, I call them, that come from left field, that macho bigotry thing, hey, women are supposed to be in the kitchen and somewhere having somebody's baby or whatever, but that wasn't my shot. After I proved what I was there for and did it well, then I didn't have no problems.
In the interview, Mamie expressed some of the frustrations and problems with the men of the Clowns. In spite of their best efforts, the Negro League still couldn't stay afloat. With all the acts and new attractions, there just wasn't enough money in it anymore. In 1955, the Kansas City Monarchs stopped playing, leaving only the Clowns. Most African Americans in baseball were now in the MLB. Toni Stone, Mamie Peanut Johnson, and Connie Morgan retired. The Indianapolis Clowns would keep playing well into the 1980s. In 1989, the Clowns only played a few games, and then decided to fold.
The Indianapolis Clowns broke many barriers during their time as a baseball team. They have a lasting impact on baseball and society today. In 2012, the Indianapolis Indians honored the Clowns by wearing the Clowns' jerseys. The Clowns broke barriers by being one of the teams in the first successful organized African American league. They broke barriers by having the first female players in the Negro Leagues. And they broke one of the most important barriers in baseball. They helped break the color line. The color line not only influenced baseball and the Negro Leagues, but also changed the mindset of the United States and in part started the civil rights movement.